Hello and welcome. Today I'll be taking a look at coronavirus and how it could affect the beef and lamb sectors in the UK. Markets are typically quick to react and adapt to changing conditions, but it will be a while until changes begin to show in official data. However, there are anecdotal reports available to us. Government advice for the past few weeks has been to stay at home and avoid public places as much as possible. More recent actions by the government have closed pubs and restaurants and now takeaways. Some national food chains had already chosen to close rather than continuing to offer takeaway service. This will have diverted demand towards retail sales and will also have diverted products out of food service into retail sales. Retail demand for all meat is currently high. However, it is mince which consumers appear to be showing a preference for. Frozen products in general are also being preferred over fresh because they can be stored. It is important to consider the difference between increases in retail demand due to an increase in meat consumption at home rather than the out of home and temporary uplift in demand due to panic buying. Experiences from other countries with coronavirus suggest the demand lift from panic buying is short-lived. The increase in retail demand from consuming at home is likely to last much longer until the government allows restaurants and pubs to open again. It's likely, however, that the overall level of demand will be lower than before. Processors and wholesalers supplying the retail markets will see an uplift in demand from retailers. Many of these processors will also supply the food service market and therefore could potentially shift product around in order to meet the increase. Key to this will be making sure processing can continue and there are no logistical issues getting the meat to shops. Reports from a variety of sectors suggest the number of available lorry drivers is below demand. However, processors are still working and certainly the larger ones are still killing. There is perhaps a more serious situation facing processors who largely supply the food service industry. Those businesses may need to look towards finding new markets, at least in the short term. Reports suggest that some suppliers to food service have been able to redirect their meat into the retail market, although the markets do have some differences in terms of the cuts that they typically demand. Beef mince dominates both channels, for example, but it is perhaps less clear how well lamb will transfer from the eating out market into retail. Imports and exports will play an important role in the balancing the meat available on the market. Trade on a global scale has been impacted for several months already due to a backlog at the Chinese ports. China has very recently begun to relax regulations which had been in place for the past 2 months. This means economic activity has begun again and the backlog at ports is beginning to clear. Looking closer to home, throughout Europe borders remain open to commercial traffic, which is allowing trade to continue. Demand in France for lamb appears still to be strong, although will fluctuate. Looking at our imports, most beef come from within Europe, and so far, reports suggest there have been no major disruptions. For lamb, so far there also appear to have been no major change for us. New Zealand had a surplus of lamb due to China's ports being closed, but this was largely exported to the Middle East. Product is now flowing again towards China. Looking forward, government advice to avoid restaurants and bars is likely to remain in place for a number of weeks. Meat demand will likely settle into become retail focused. Maintaining the supply chain will be vital for the industry and cash flows for both farms, abattoirs and wholesalers. AHDB will keep you up to date on the latest for all markets across agriculture, although the situation does appear to be changing on a daily basis. There is a dedicated page on the website containing all the latest information.